Part 82. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 829. The four soldiers who broke away from the team quickly rushed towards the falling purifier mechanical warrior. Neither the scorching lava nor the steep rocks could stop them for a moment. It took them less than a minute to reach the enemy's fall point. Two of the soldiers immediately picked up the blaster guns in their hands and activated the rapid-fire mode. A series of bullets flew out from the muzzles, hitting the mechanical warfare that had just climbed up hundreds of meters away, and erupted with a large number of high-energy ion sparks, effectively suppressing it. Time for them to take off again. The high-energy ion bullets of the blaster cannot penetrate the armor of the purifier mechanical warriors in a short time, and can only consume the energy reserves of the charged armor on their body surface, but this is enough, because there are other people present. While their teammates were suppressing the enemy, the other two warriors sped up and pulled out the straight-edged swords hanging from their backs at the same time, turning on the energy-cutting mode. In an instant, the blades of the swords became red and hot, extremely dazzling in the slightly dim environment. Seeing that their teammates were close to the enemy, the two soldiers who were firing to suppress them stopped shooting in a tacit understanding, quickly stepped forward to take up positions, and at the same time were alert to other possible enemies around them. When the team member responsible for the killing approached the purifier sequence mechanical warrior, the battle was over to a certain extent. A feigned move to trick the purifier into attacking first with the energy sword they were equipped with. Taking advantage of the wide-open door on his chest, he broke his balance with a shoulder thrust and at the same time raised the sword in his hand and slashed at his hand, taking the lead in defeating him. Its main means of attack. Then, depending on the purifier's reaction, he would retreat slightly to avoid his counter-attack or pursue the victory and cut off his head with a knife. It all depends on the warrior's fighting ability. But the person who can become a Super Legion warrior is not a veteran who has experienced hundreds of battles. The purifier, who can only fight with preset modular tactics, cannot compete with these veterans on the battlefield. The main reason is that after dealing with these inflexible machines for a long time, you only need to look at the movements of these tall men to raise their hands to know whether they will roll or crawl next. The harvest of the fallen purifiers was completed here, and the only 3 purifiers left in the sky on the other side were also shot down, leaving the legacy here. As the team continued to move forward, they would encounter teams of purifier mechanical warriors wandering in the sky from time to time. However, because the battlefield was so large and the team was so quick to deal with it, they did not fall into a siege and arrived smoothly. Destination. It doesn't look like many people are getting here. The sergeant captain met with the captain of another team and briefly exchanged their experiences. But, many teams were surrounded and trapped in place waiting for support. We were lucky because all the mechanical bastards in this area were attracted by the angel warriors of the First Legion. Isn't that just convenient for us? Let those proud guys have a good exchange with them. The captain of the sergeant shrugged slightly and smiled. Many low-level officers of the Super Legion were very indifferent to the angel warriors of the First Angel Legion. Okay, let's not talk about anything else. If we capture this place as soon as possible, we can go to support our brother troops as soon as possible. After bidding farewell to each other, the 2 sergeant captains returned to their own teams, preparing to enter the Eternal Ascended One's base through the huge gap blown up in the ground, destroy the energy source here, and plunge the Eternal Ascending One's production base into chaos. In paralysis. As for why it was not completely blown up, it was for post-war resource recovery and technological reverse research. Although the Eternal Ascended Ones were defeated by the Just World, it did not mean that the opponent's technological level was lower than that of the Just World. It would be better to say that the other party is superb in the use of mechanical engineering and materials and energy technology. Even Binghua has to admire this, because the righteous world cannot create a single combat weapon that can fight against the god of war, but the eternal sublimator is not only we did it and achieved a certain level of mass production. In fact, after this expedition, Binghua looked at the overall situation and came to the conclusion that the Eternal Ascended Ones were remodeling their own army. This conclusion was not difficult to draw. Let's not mention the technological development of a civilization for now, but the development of military technology often depends on what kind of enemies it needs to face. Often the development of weapons of a civilization is relatively abnormal, because the enemies it needs to face are also relatively simple. For example, during the Angel War period of the Angel civilization, if there were no Celestial City and the influence of the Celestial Palace flagship, the Heavenly Blade series would not have been developed. During the Physical War period, if it were not for the super-large battleships designed to destroy the Titans, there would not be the rapid emergence of such things as the Heavenly Blade Judgment. This kind of large-scale energy attack method. After the end of these two large-scale wars, there is no angel warfare technology that can truly compete with the enemy. There has been no major progress for a long time, because the angels' warfare methods are now sufficient to deal with all current enemies. However, the emergence of Carl and the rise of void technology made Angel feel threatened for a long time. Only in this way did Angel's research progress in the void advance rapidly in 100 years, and the far-fetched fourth generation of divine body technology has been initially finalized. The Eternal Ascended Ones are not much different from the previous angels, because they face the tenacious survivability and large number of chaos viruses, and their war weapons often have extremely strong large-scale destructive capabilities and endurance. But in the war with the Justice World, these big guys were beaten to pieces by the Justice World with its powerful individual force and Arankar. For this reason, the Samilo host established the Mechanical Warrior plan, and in the war in the world of justice has progressed rapidly. It only took a few thousand years to catch up with the path that the God-making civilization took tens of thousands of years to complete, creating high-sequence mechanical warriors that can rival the first and second generation war gods. The reason why Binghua launched the Great Crusade regardless of the development of the Justice World was because the Justice World finally gained some technical advantages by relying on her cheating. She must take advantage of this great opportunity to destroy the Eternal Ascended Ones. Because Binghua feels some pressure, she cannot improve the technology of Justice World without limit. Sooner or later, she will fall into the bottleneck of technological development. By then, if the Eternal Sublimator is equipped with weapons that are at a higher technological level than Justice World will have to how to resist. That's why Binghua would not hesitate to die personally to promote the success of this great expedition. Because of her ideal, the world that may only exist in fantasy is slowly being realized, and she will never allow her thousands of years of hard work to be ruined. So even if the person standing in front of her is a real god or some other unknown existence, Binghua will have to bump into them hard to see which one is stronger, my knife or your fist. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 830. In this war, the First Angel Legion held back the main force of the Eternal Ascendants. After the Super Legion landed, the outcome was actually decided. The Eternal Ascendants, who lacked a production base, could no longer continue to fight against the First Expeditionary Force. Kaza was excited that he could command such a large-scale war, but little did he know how many hairs the members of the Supreme Tactical Planning Department had lost in order to cooperate with his army commander, who was always quick to rush to the front line to kill the enemy. But finally this war is coming to an end, and they can finally take a good rest after working hard for a long time. As the nominal commander, Kaza unsurprisingly rushed to the front line with his legionnaires. After successively overpowering several destroyer sequence mechanical warriors that were showing off their power on the battlefield, Kaza was killed by his old rival. Found it? As soon as the two sides encountered each other, they tried their best to greet each other, but each knew very well what the other's methods were. Kaza has not made any progress during the battle with Destroyer 018. His proficiency in flame bombing and dark energy tactics has improved extremely quickly. He can already modify the power of flame bombing at will according to needs during the battle. Release form. But as a semi-intelligent life, the Destroyer 018 is not a vegetarian. He just invented an energy absorption and reflection device to return Kazaa's energy attacks in any form, and sometimes adds some extra ingredients. This makes Kazaa, his opponent, it was miserable. Therefore, after the two have been entangled for a long time, they will eventually return to the most simple and unpretentious hand-to-hand combat. But the experience of fighting a hand-to-hand combat with an intelligent machine that knows more than 90% of your combat data, I believe everyone knows it. Jia had no experience other than being beaten. However, relying on the high recovery and defense of the divine body, Kazaa's tactics of exchanging injuries for injuries were always able to defeat Destroyer 018 and achieve the final victory. But this time the situation was different from before. After the body was partially damaged, Destroyer 018 did not retreat, but continued to charge forward. The purifying energy on the thick back sword in his hand became extremely intense, and it struck hard at Kazaa's blocked body. A burst of brilliant energy sparks burst out from the heavy sword, forcing it to retreat continuously. Seeing this, Kazaa also became fierce. He guided the weapon pressed against his sword, passed by the destroyer, and immediately turned around and slashed with a blazing flame. But the destroyer seemed to have predicted all this. He turned back and the shield-like device on his left arm slightly unfolded to emit purifying energy particles that shone like stars. As soon as the blazing slash touched these energy particles, they were captured and sucked into the shield-shaped energy absorption device along with them. The next moment, the destroyer lifted the energy absorption device and pointed it at Kazaa, and launched a fan-shaped red energy wave. Kazaa couldn't dodge at all, and was hit head-on by the energy wave. The armor, which was already damaged in many places, reached its load-bearing limit and was directly blasted to pieces. Kazaa grunted and fell backwards from the impact. When the destroyer saw the flying wings on its back spread out, several small structural weapons flew out directly and bombarded the retreating Kazaa. For a time, dazzling flashes of light continued to bloom in the universe. Destroyer 018 did not give up this opportunity to suppress the enemy. He picked up his sword and rushed towards the explosion of fire, slashing towards the figure scanned out of the fire. But what puzzled Destroyer 018 was that his weapon seemed to be restricted by something, and he could not move forward or retract it. It was not until the fire that obscured his sight dissipated that Destroyer 018 knew the reason. Kazaa directly grabbed the blade that was surging with blazing energy with his hand. Regardless of the severe pain in his palm that was dissipated by the energy, he raised the heavy sword in his hand with his other hand, activated the blade-breaking ability, and moved towards the destroyer who was close at hand. Chopping down hard. The next moment, metal armor fragments scattered in all directions, and the outer armor on Destroyer 018's chest was completely destroyed by the blast of the blade-breaking system. Kazaa had been waiting for the sword for a long time. When fighting Destroyer 018 before, the opponent retreated before Kazaa could activate the broken blade system. This made Kazaa very depressed, thinking that the opponent had noticed something. The fact is similar to what Kazaa thought. The premise of starting the blade-breaking system is to put a small amount of energy into the opponent's weapons and armor, and then suddenly detonate it at the right time to destroy the opponent's weapons and equipment, catching the opponent by surprise. But Destroyer 018 has always used purifying energy field defense. After the energy field intensity is reduced to a certain level, it will choose to withdraw from the battle to prevent the body from suffering major damage. How could Kazaa find the opportunity to use the broken blade system? But today is the last battle. Destroyer 018 has no way to retreat. The news coming from the base has shown that the ground troops of the Justice World have successfully invaded. Soon he and other mechanical warriors will join the final battle. The shelter will also be lost. In this case, why bother taking damage to the body? After Kazaa succeeded with the blow, he connected with the thrust without hesitation. Without the protection of the outer armor and energy field, How could the delicate structure of Destroyer 018's chest withstand this blow? Kazaa was struck by the sharp and heavy blow in Kazaa's hand on the spot. The sword penetrated the chest. Before Kazaa could show a victorious smile, he was pushed away by the destroyer and hit by several more energy rays from the structural weapons wandering around. Seeing the reminders that the body was damaged and the power output was reduced that kept popping up in the interface, the destroyer's heart did not fluctuate at all. He calmly closed some body functions that were insignificant to the battle. Based on the damage, he calculated that he might time of activity. Kazaa on the other side got rid of the bombing of the structural weapons and blasted it into pieces with a flaming slash. Seeing that the severely injured destroyer continued to resist, Kazaa quietly carried out the weapon he had obtained from the Queen a long time ago. It looks like a dagger-style data capturer. And just as the war in the 2846 planetary system was about to end, a simple aircraft with a length of several meters outside the planetary system suddenly jumped out of the void and rushed towards the nearby planetary system. From time to time, it would rush into the void. When it reappeared, it had been much closer to the planetary system. Destroyer 018, who was in the final confrontation with Kazaa, also received a message. Here is the destroyer serial armed prototype, number 101. According to the order of the Samilo host, it is here to recover your core data number 018. Please tell us your location and surrounding conditions. Kazaa cut off the only remaining arm of Destroyer 018 with a sword, wanting to completely destroy this tenacious machine. While making the final resistance, Destroyer felt the condition of the machine and replied to 101. The body has been severely damaged and cannot survive until your arrival. Please apply for remote data upload. Agree, this machine has been authorized, number 018, you can upload your core data at any time, and this machine will receive it. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 831. After Destroyer 018 received the reply from Prototype 101, he immediately started uploading his core data. I don't know if 101 received the uploaded information, but Kazaa's data capture device successfully captured the unknown escape data and intercepted it immediately. In fact, Binghua had tried to capture the high-sequence existence data of the Eternal Ascendants a long time ago, and had cracked their information database to understand this very mysterious race. But it is a pity that the data captured and intercepted every time are subroutines of the high-sequence Eternal Ascender. Its core program either chose to perish with its own core, or it uploaded its own data early in advance when the situation was not good. Only one subroutine is left that only knows how to fight. Over time, Binghua gave up this idea. The last time Kazaa asked her for something, Binghua gave him this thing that she thought was useless, letting him use his remaining heat in Kazaa's hands to prevent his combat data from being obtained by the opponent. But neither Binghua nor Kazaa expected that Destroyer 018 cherished his own body very much. Except for the first time when Kazaa dragged him into a planet and lost one of his bodies, Kazaa has never been able to succeed again since then. The data capture device in Kazaa's hand has never been exposed. It is precisely because of this that Destroyer 018 uploaded core data so easily in front of Kazaa, and was easily robbed by the data capture interceptor. 101, who was waiting for 018 to upload the core data, kept waiting and waiting but couldn't wait for the uploaded data. He was a little puzzled, so he contacted 018 again, but this time he couldn't even contact 018, and the other party directly lost the signal. But soon 101 no longer had time to pay attention to 018's affairs. Two very powerful energy reflection sources were quickly approaching her location. Please stop the spaceship ahead immediately. The front is the Justice World War Zone. Two male angels from the First Angel Legion who were patrolling the outer reaches of the galaxy discovered that a UFO had entered the area they were responsible for. They immediately came over to check the situation and found that it was a small unmarked spacecraft, so they issued a warning, while asking the other person to stop. After 101 received the warning message from the Angel Warrior, it was naturally impossible to stop. Instead, it accelerated the speed of the aircraft carrying itself. The Angel Warrior approaching saw that the opponent did not stop, but accelerated his speed. Naturally, he felt that there was something wrong with the opponent, and immediately reported the situation to his colleagues in front, asking them to help intercept him. Soon two male Angel Warriors were stuck behind 101. After several failed warnings, the Angel Warrior chasing behind launched an attack without any hesitation. The flaming slashes were like meteors passing by in the night sky. A small aircraft that can flexibly change direction and evade. 101 relies on the excellent maneuverability of the aircraft carrying her, and does not pay attention to the attacks from the angels behind her. However, she seems to have forgotten that this is not a desolate deep space in the universe, but the number one in the world of justice is stationed here. The main force of the expeditionary force. A barrage of beams suddenly covered a large space around 101, causing serious damage to 101's carrier aircraft. In this regard, the distant fleet did not launch the next round of attacks, because the nearby Angel Warriors wanted to know who was the person who broke into the Justice World War Zone without authorization. But when the chasing angels approached the stopped small spacecraft and were about to step forward to open it, the spacecraft opened on its own, and then a figure that was both familiar and unfamiliar to the angels present appeared in their sights. The dark and smooth shawl-length hair reflects a faint shimmer, and the face hidden behind the bangs on his forehead is so familiar to the angels present. Coupled with the highly visible Angel King armor and the angel wings spread out behind him, everyone present each of the angels blinked hard to confirm whether they were dazzled. How could the goddess of the world of justice, who had always been on the Annihilation-class mothership, suddenly appear here and escape their inquiries? For a moment, forced by the identity of the person in front of her, the angel warriors present did not act rashly, but they did not salute. The quick-thinking angel immediately began to contact his superiors to verify whether the Queen had left the Annihilation-class mothership. 101 expressionlessly used his scanning function to obtain the information of the several angels in front of him, and obtain their general information based on the Eternal Ascended One's database. High-sequence combat unit of the World of Justice, belonging to the angel civilization of Kamigawa, threat assessment, weak. Just when 101 was evaluating the angel warriors, the angels present also received the exact news from their superiors. The goddess had not left the Annihilation-class mothership. The one in front of them was a counterfeit, and they suddenly became furious. The goddess is the most respected and worshipped being by these new generation angels. No matter who the guy in front of her is, since she dares to blaspheme their goddess, she must pay the price with blood. Come together and destroy this guy who blasphemed the goddess. Upon hearing this, the four angels present folded their wings slightly on their backs and immediately rushed towards the fake goddess standing there. But what happened at the next moment shocked the charging angels. They saw the fake goddess slightly raising her face, her cold and emotionless eyes falling on them, and the angel wings spread behind her suddenly changed from holy white to metal. The silver color immediately spread out and turned into countless feather-like flying blades that shot towards them. Facing this offensive like a torrential downpour, the angels who were rushing towards the fake goddess had to stop themselves and spread out in all directions, while behind them were dense metal flying blades chasing after them. After escaping for a while, some angels discovered that they could not get rid of these followers clinging to them at their normal flying speed, so they turned around and swung several slashes towards the flying blades, hoping to destroy them, but as the explosion the fire dissipated, but the flying blades were not destroyed. As several painful screams from his companions came through the communication, The only angel who did not stop fighting back glanced at the direction of his companions with his peripheral vision, and his pupils shrank, because his companions were covered with silver metal flying blades. Large amounts of blood gushed out from the wound, turning into energy particles and dissipating into the void. "Damn it, you fake." In the end, the angel warrior did not just run away, but was aroused by the tragic situation of his companions. The anger in his heart was aroused, and the Fan Shen sword in his hand suddenly burst out with dazzling flames. This is Angel's specialty, flame bombing, which has extremely strong explosive dark energy impact and ultra-high temperature flame melting. Even beings with divine bodies cannot ignore it. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 832. Ignoring the incoming flying blades, the angel only saw the figure of the fake goddess. Finally, after being blocked by hundreds of meters of flying blades, he finally arrived in front of his target. The Fan Shenjian, filled with blazing flame bombardment energy, swung heavily towards the thin sword with the appearance of a goddess less than 100 meters away from him. Figure. A ball of crimson energy flames bloomed in the universe, and the surging dazzling light engulfed everything around it wantonly. The angel warrior who caused all this breathed a sigh of relief. The enemy who blasphemed the honor of the goddess was finally dealt with. But then the fire cloud that swallowed the fake goddess suddenly changed, as if there was an invisible suction force that pulled the surging fire away. The clouds and energy flames all converged into one point. The being who desecrated the honor of the goddess also reappeared behind the fire cloud that was gradually gathered into a single point. Not only was he unscathed, but the flame bombardment energy he emitted was compressed and held in the palm of his hand and disappeared. Nazi 101 is currently analyzing the nature of the energy he just absorbed. It is more destructive and corrosive than pure purifying energy. In this case, it will be used as the main attack energy in the future. After completing the analysis and copying of the energy, 101 noticed that there was still an angel alive around him. He raised his hand and pointed it at the living angel with his fingers spread wide. The flame-bombing energy that he had just analyzed and copied was of use. An energy very similar to the flame bombing suddenly began to gather from the front of 101's palm, and then turned into a small beam of light that shot out in an instant and penetrated the chest of the angel warrior. This series of confrontations seemed to last a long time, but in less than 2 minutes, 4 warriors from the first angel legion fell into the hands of this fake goddess, and the distant fleet did not have time to provide fire support. But everything that happened here was quickly reported to the Supreme Tactical Planning Department responsible for battlefield coordination. Soon the first Angel Legion soldiers who were patrolling the nearby space got the news. Immediately, more than a dozen high-level Angel warriors responsible for patrols rushed towards this area, and the matter spread at an extremely fast speed. Arrive at Binghua's place. When encountering an individual with powerful destructive power, the just world will not forcefully attack them, but will give priority to the nearest angel or super legionnaire for support. In this quick response system, enemies are divided into many types based on their individual strength. For example, if they encounter conventional destroyers and purifiers, they will digest things internally that the First Legion can handle on their own. Will not report it to the superior at all. But this time, after the 4 patrolling high-level angel warriors engaged in a battle with the enemy, they lost contact without even getting detailed information about the enemy. In addition, the enemy's form and attack methods were unheard of, so they reported it to the ICE. Hua here. Binghua also attaches great importance to this matter. High-level angels are not cabbages, and those who can easily kill them are certainly not simple beings. She directly opens the eye of insight to view the battles taking place on the periphery of the 2846 planetary system from a distance. Only a dozen soldiers of the First Angel Legion formed a closely coordinated battle formation and came up with a special god-killing combat plan, but the results achieved were extremely limited. The person being besieged attracted Binghua's attention even more, because the other person's appearance was not exactly the same as his, but it was only slightly different. Binghua frowned slightly. This was something that came from there. How dare you slaughter your own subordinates in front of your own face? And based on Binghua's visual judgment, the opponent should soon be able to break through the god-killing operations of the First Angel Legion under his command. By then, those soldiers would be in danger. Because the god-killing combat plan is all about speed. If the target cannot be captured in a short period of time and the target adapts to the attack rhythm, it will be easy to find flaws and defeat them one by one. Take Binghua herself as an example. She doesn't do this very much. If any civilization dares to use god-killing warfare to deal with her, she will happily tell them that gods are not that easy to kill. Just catch anyone. It's worth taking a few hits to beat them to death, and then defeat each one easily. Of course, this method of playing is only suitable for those with rich actual combat experience and knowledge, because they can easily judge which kind of attack they can withstand, and which kind must be avoided. After initially understanding the information about the existence of the invasion, Binghua could no longer stay in the Annihilation class mothership with peace of mind. Training your subordinates is a matter of time, but it also needs to be based on the situation. The opponent is obviously not an ordinary existence, and dragging down the high-level angels of the First Legion is likely to cause heavy losses. Binghua immediately began to calculate the micro-wormhole formula to reach the battlefield, planning to create a temporary wormhole and reach the scene directly in one step. 101 As analyzed by Binghua, facing the siege of more than a dozen high-level angels, apart from being a little embarrassed at first, he soon created a set of algorithms based on the attack trends and data of the surrounding angels to predict their attacks in advance. In fact, the high-level heavenly masters who besieged 101 also discovered this. The opponent was predicting their attack tactics in advance, so they changed their god-killing tactical plans several times. But although this fake goddess is not as desperate as her true self, she is still extremely powerful. One-on-one, whether in terms of strength or other aspects, she has a tendency to crush them, the elites of the First Angel Legion. 101 has a light body, and the silver metal wings on its back are like two sharp knives. The scattered and concentrated wings cause headaches to the angels present, and the flame bombing they rely on most is completely ineffective. Just when the angels were about to kill this fake goddess in hand-to-hand combat, a voice that they were extremely familiar with and respected sounded in the communication channel. "You all stand down." As these words fell, a vertical crack suddenly appeared in the void beside him, and then a figure walked out slowly, clearly walking in the void, but in the eyes of the angels present, it seemed as if he was down to earth with ease. Binghua came to the front of the angels, rubbed his chin and carefully looked at the appearance of 101 opposite him, and after a while he sighed. Sure enough, it was more shocking to see it with my own eyes. Apart from the demeanor, even I couldn't tell the difference in appearance. The angel behind Binghua suddenly didn't know what to say when he heard this. Now in the battle, the opponent is also an extremely dangerous enemy. Now is not the time to make any comments. Goddess, since you have decided to take action, quickly deal with the opponent. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 833. Goddess. I'm sorry we can't destroy it for you. The male angel who organized the god-killing battle came to Binghua's side and said a little humiliatedly. It's okay, this guy is not simple. According to the information I scanned, it should be a combat weapon sent by the Eternal Ascended One. You guys step back and let me meet her and see how much progress she has made compared to the previous mechanical warriors. Binghua raised his palms and waved to the angel warriors behind him, indicating that they did not need to blame themselves. Then his eyes fell on 101 again and asked casually. Looking at your energy response, you should be a high sequence being among the eternal ascenders. Can you communicate? 101 didn't speak. She just kept scanning the angel who suddenly appeared. There seemed to be some powerful energy radiation on the other person's body, which caused some interference in her scanning system. It took more than 10 seconds to get the other person's information. Code name, Angel King, Binghua, affiliation, Angel Civilization, threat level, extremely high, recommended, not suitable for combat data collection. 101 read a large list of information obtained by its scanning system in the database, and the calculation logic almost crashed, because most of them were the history of the battle between their eternal ascensionist and the codenamed Angel Wang Binghua, and they were all defeated. Even 101, who had just created his own personality and didn't know what fear was, secretly felt that continuing to stay in the star field might not be a good thing. Binghua was not surprised by 101's reaction, because this was not the first time she had tried to communicate with these machines, but except for a few times, most of them attacked without any response. Since this was the case, Binghua lost interest in staying here. With the thought, ripples appeared in the surrounding space. More than 30 flaming swords flew into the air, protruding the tip of his sword from the void, and then covering it with a sword at the same time. A layer of red energy flames. The male angels who were admiring the goddess's fighting posture not far away couldn't help but feel ashamed when they saw this. They had obviously mastered the flame bombing for so long, but they just couldn't do the multiple flame bombing calculations and energy blessings like the goddess. Seeing this, 101's originally calm eyes moved slightly, because her scanning system detected that the weapons with exposed sword tips contained very strong energy, and it was not appropriate to use energy absorption for defense. Binghua didn't see what the being who impersonated his own appearance was thinking. After completing the energy blessing of the flaming swords, he directly controlled them to shoot out towards his target, like dozens of swords that penetrated the stars. Like a red spear. But what happened at the next moment made Binghua narrow his eyes slightly, because from the silver metal wings behind the counterfeit, more than 30 feather-like flying blades suddenly shot out towards the flaming sword. The next moment, dozens of orange-red energy light clusters exploded between Binghua and 101, and the radiated light dyed their faces with a layer of constantly floating fiery red color. Binghua's original relaxed mood disappeared. She became interested in this impostor. She stretched out her hand and the 7-killing king sword came out from the void. As if to celebrate that she finally saw the light of day again, it radiated a faint circle of light. Energy fluctuations. 101 was extremely wary of this. The silver wings behind her moved forward uneasily to protect half of her body, but with a flash of blue lightning, Binghua dared to appear suddenly in front of her. At the same time, her 5 white wings were long and slender. The next moment his fingers covered her face. Binghua was surrounded by thunder and lightning. He grabbed 101's head with one hand and dragged her towards the nearest planet. During this period, 101 tried to break Binghua's hand several times, but was unable to shake the seemingly weak one. Boneless slender fingers. As for the first Angel Legion who was watching the battle, they were stunned. It took a few seconds to react, and they quickly incited the angel wings to chase after them. Although their power was insignificant compared to the Queen, they could not let the Queen be alone with the unknown. Enemies fight. After dragging 101 for more than 10 seconds, Binghua suddenly let go of his hand to avoid the silver wings that were being cut. With a sweep of his right-hand sword, 101, who was protected by the wings behind him, flew away. 101 felt the huge force hitting his body and could only take advantage of the situation and fly backwards to dispel it. Seeing that 101 was difficult to restrain, Binghua simply reached out and pointed at her retreating figure, directly activated the force field algorithm, and then grabbed her and flew towards the 9th planet in the 2846 planetary system without stopping for a moment. A few minutes later, with a dull boom, 101 was carried by a force field energy and fell directly to the surface of a planet, splashing large swaths of dust. Not far away, Binghua fell to the ground leisurely and slowly. Seeing 101 standing up unsteadily from the circular pit he had made, he said aloud, "Since you are a high-sequence machine and can even imitate my silver feathers, you should have your own personality. To answer my question, you are a fake." The reason why Binghua suddenly changed her mind was because the strength of the silver wings behind 101 was beyond her expectation. The Eternal Ascenders have a habit of not equipping mass-produced aircraft with special weapons except for prototypes. Just like in the past, the gap between the 102 and its successors is not only reflected in the body, but also in the types of weapons equipped. Now the reason why Binghua is not in a hurry to destroy the other party is to see how much the other party has learned from her, so that she can have a good idea and see how many unexplored trump cards are left. On the other side, when she heard Binghua calling herself a fake, a strange emotion emerged in 101's heart. She spoke directly without any logical calculation. "I am not your fake. I am a celestial-level civilization suppression weapon developed to fight against the angels of the world of justice." While speaking, the silver wings on 101's back suddenly spread out as before, turning into dense flying blades and shooting towards Binghua. But what moved 101 the next moment was that the angel wings behind Binghua were quickly covered with a layer of silver wings, and then spread out to face the flying blade controlled by her. The two collided fiercely in the void and shattered. Silver shards shot out everywhere. "What's so surprising? Since you are a weapon made and developed by your civilization using me as a template, I will naturally have the things and functions you have, and they may be stronger than yours." Binghua seemed to be able to feel the surprise in 101's heart. When Binghua finished his words, Yin Yu, who smashed his imitation into pieces, immediately strangled 101, like a wave of silver blades that was constantly surging, extremely terrifying. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 834. Seeing this, 101 retreated slightly. She had already deeply realized the sharpness of these gadgets. Cutting her own body was just like playing with it. However, as a civilization-suppressing weapon made with Binghua's template, of course it was equipped with defensive weapons that fit her identity. As 101 stepped back to distance herself from Binghua, 4 palm-sized flying devices suddenly appeared in the space around her. They simultaneously unfolded in front of her and pulled up a transparent square curtain, blocking the incoming air. Yin Yu took them all in, and then the curtain quickly disappeared. Binghua felt the silver feathers disconnected from him, and the corners of his eyes twitched slightly. He was careless, and it turned out to be a defense method similar to space exile. He could no longer throw weapons at will, otherwise he would never return. Although she was distressed, Binghua was not too angry. However, the more powerful 101 became, the more curious she became about her limits. When the Eternal Ascenders used her as a template to create new weapons, Binghua also learned from them technology to improve themselves and the world of justice. After successfully defending Binghua's offensive, 101 chose to counterattack directly calculating the surrounding space data. The microspace rift generator suspended around him stretched out 2 crescent-shaped space rifts several meters long under the interaction. And out. Although he knew that the technology of the Eternal Ascended One was not weak, Binghua was still surprised by his ability to easily create microspace rifts. However, this form of attack may be very difficult for those who generally do not understand space technology because of the dislocation phenomenon in space. It can cut most known substances into several pieces, making it impossible to defend against it. but 101 was a bit over the top in using this method in front of Binghua. Binghua directly pulled out his spatial medium disruption sword from the arsenal and swung a fan-shaped energy shockwave forward. Whether it is the space rift cut out or the spatial dislocation created by the space generator suspended around 101, it becomes unstable at the same time. 101 wants to continue to maintain it, but the next moment, whether it is a space rift or something else, it is directly in place. The collapse disappeared. Before 101 could make any other moves, a huge thunder and lightning that dyed the surrounding space with a touch of blue struck over. With a loud bang, the soil on the ground splashed, and 101 was directly blown away, with lightning all over his body. But the energy absorption was turned on. Except for being a little embarrassed by the impact of the thunder explosion, all the lightning on 101's body was converted into her own energy. Not far away, Binghua was a little dissatisfied when he saw that his thunder blast had no effect. He raised his hand again, and the thunder in his hand was surrounded. At the same time, the sky became dark with the naked eye. Thunder clouds should not have appeared in the first place. In the sky of the desolate planet, several thunderclouds covering nearly 100 kilometers suddenly appeared due to the interference of ice blooms. Of course, Binghua did not do this by relying on her own strength. She could not affect such a large area in such a short time by herself. Instead, she did it with the help of the Thunder Sword, which was walking in the sky in advance. 101, which kept flying forward and away from the ice bloom, felt that its situation was not good. The positive and negative charges in the space above were abnormally active. Under the intervention of unknown means, they were violently colliding. What was triggered was the most destructive force in nature: a thunder and lightning. And almost when 101 discovered this, the thunder clouds in the sky began to show their power, and thunder and lightning as thick as pillars fell from the sky, like silver roots growing and hanging down from the 9 heavens, taking root in the sky. On the earth cracked for a moment, the space trembled, and the power was extremely shocking. A few minutes later, the thunder in the sky stopped. Binghua stared at the devastated land, searching for traces of 101. She had a hunch that the other party would not be easily destroyed. The power of nature is very powerful, but it has its limits. For the level of the god of war, unless the power of nature can be concentrated on one point, it is impossible to cause fatal damage to him. Although the opponent is not a god, the strength of his body is obviously not weak after the brief contact before. Sure enough, 101 rushed out of a mountain that was shattered by thunder, but it was obvious that the thunder bombing this time exceeded her upper limit. The cloak on the back of the Angel King's armor, which was similar to Binghua's style, became tattered. There were also several burnt marks on the chest and abdomen. At the same time, 101's face and other areas of the body that were not protected by armor showed signs of charring and carbonization. There were also several areas where the silver metal material inside was directly exposed. This made Binghua frown and imitate himself. But it's obvious that Eternal Ascension is a bit careless about technical research on appearance. The body has plenty of energy, and various parts have minor damage. Space exile requires reanalysis of the space due to unknown interference. After calculation and analysis, all conventional weapons currently carried by this aircraft are unable to cause any harm to the individual codenamed Angel King. After 101 got the above results, she didn't know what to do next. Finally, she calculated a plan again. Calculate the probability of successful retreat. During the calculation, the result has been obtained because of the unknown space interference method. The success rate of retreat is 30%. Add the suppression form of celestial level civilization to the retreat conditions. 101 added a new condition to the retreat plan, and the success rate of this retreat increased by nearly 20 percentage points. Binghua in the air saw that 101 below had not moved, so he dived and rushed towards the opponent. The 7 kills of Wang's sword in his hand was covered with a layer of silvery dark energy, turning on the dark energy cutting mode of Wang's sword. 101 below was indifferent to Binghua's behavior, but quickly connected to the dimensional space he carried, connecting to his true body, the celestial level civilization suppression weapon type 01. Binghua had no idea about this. After piercing through a shield-like energy film, the Wang sword in his hand easily penetrated the chest of his impostor. Seeing the person in front of him who showed no resistance and had the same face as himself, Binghua felt extremely bored, because the other person obviously had intelligence and personality, but he acted like a doll in front of him. This made Binghua, who hadn't been moved by anything for a long time, feel like she couldn't vent her emotions, and the culprit was the guy in front of him, who completely disappointed Binghua's expectations. "I thought I could have a good fight with you, but I didn't expect that you, as a fake, would learn so little." Binghua drew out his king's sword and planned to take 101's body back for study, but suddenly the surrounding space began to become unstable, and an extremely huge shadow of an unknown existence appeared and disappeared in the space behind 101. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 835. Binghua felt deeply that he could no longer stay here, so he flew backwards and kept distance from 101. What happened next also confirmed Binghua's thoughts. Sharp silver metal wingtips stretched out from the void, followed by a huge and complex metal body that fit into each other. In the blink of an eye, the area where 101 was located was occupied by a behemoth, and this behemoth continued to expand and grow. The metal wings like the wings of the Skyblade battleship spread wider and wider, and each one was like a feather-like slender rib. Shaped metal sheets, stacked layer by layer. The middle part is a torso composed of several giant horizontal prismatic structures. Behind it are neatly arranged energy jets, as well as pointed wing structures that stand upright and have unknown purposes. The blue energy crystal emits bright light, looking down at the surface of the planet in front of her like eyes and the ice blooms that are as small as dust in her eyes. The main structure of the celestial level civilization suppression weapons has been fully deployed. All weapons systems are normal and have sufficient energy. They can launch suppression and extermination operations against civilization at any time. This size is already comparable to the scale of the Skyblade. Staring at the magnificent metal creation that occupied the entire field of vision and towered in the void, Binghua realized why 101 had previously said that it was a celestial-level civilization suppression weapon. This size was indeed qualified to say that it was a celestial-level combat weapon. The target has been locked, Angel King, purify all attack systems and start immediately. Just when Binghua was observing the celestial-level civilization suppression weapon formed by 101, dense blue dots like raindrops appeared around it, and the next moment they suddenly covered Binghua's direction. Binghua's eyes kept scanning among the countless light spots, looking for the best evasive route, but it seemed that when the opponent launched the attack, they had already carefully arranged and combined this point in advance, and they just couldn't find a perfect route for her. Route. But Binghua is not a vegetarian. A celestial-level weapon sounds very intimidating, but as a well-informed former Angel Civilization left-winger, she has not seen it before. She raised the king's sword in her hand and rushed directly towards the attack. The energy intensity of each of these blue purifying energy light bombs is not weak, but under the cutting of Wang Jian, they all end up being broken into two halves, and subsequent explosions are even less likely to cause any damage to Binghua's body. Damaged. But the planet below the ice bloom and 101 was completely devastated. The countless energy bombs directly plowed away dozens of kilometers of land, leaving behind dense circular craters. And seeing that his attack failed to hit Binghua, 101 directly increased the attack intensity, and soon the surface of 2846 Planet 9 was completely destroyed. Avoiding a sweeping beam of light, Binghua raised the king's sword in his hand. The flame bombardment was ready in an instant, turning into a continuous sword energy and heading towards the body-level civilization suppression weapon, crashing into it. There wasn't much splashing at all. Binghua could clearly see that the energy of his flame bombing was absorbed, and was shot back by the opponent the next moment. In fact, Binghua has tried several conventional energy attacks. Whether it is thunder and lightning strikes or flame slashes, they will all be resolved by the opponent's energy absorption. 101, on the other hand, is building its own retreat channel while suppressing Binghua's actions to prevent the opponent from using high-intensity attack methods after leaving its attack range. For the Eternal Sublimator who has Binghua's combat data, Binghua's force field manipulation abilities are no secret. In fact, Binghua also has the idea of using the force field ability. He doesn't know how long he will have to fight with the opponent if this continues. The opponent's energy absorption ability, Binghua suspects, is a defense method developed to restrain the angels of their righteous world. If he wanted to, he turned around and rushed towards the outside of the planet. In the space in front of him, dense explosions of Taya alloy swords appeared, and they were launched towards the huge body of 101, like a rain of light. Energy clusters hundreds of meters in size bloomed on the shield on its body surface. 101 also immediately changed its attack method, from intensive bombing to clustered energy rays, which swept towards Binghua's position. The ground on its path was directly swept out of a bottomless canyon, but what about this slow attack? Able to hit ice flower. 101 also discovered this. The next moment, it opened fire, with a dense rain of energy bombs, energy rays that cut the sky and the earth, and a large range of energy lightning coverage. It can be said that it is surrounded by firepower for thousands of kilometers. Within striking range. Fortunately, the fleet from the Justice World did not follow, otherwise they would have suffered heavy losses in the face of the celestial-level civilization suppression weapons formed by 101. Although 101 tried its best to prevent Binghua from moving away, Binghua was still rushed out of the range of his strongest firepower. And what 101 turned into was a civilization-suppressing weapon, not a single soldier god-killing weapon, which was not suitable in the first place. To deal with powerful single targets, otherwise Samaelo, the host of the Eternal Ascendant, would not have to transform his army. The first thing Binghua did when he came to the universe was to take out his Titan's hand armor, and then the weapons arsenal was opened again. This time it was no longer a small-scale opening, but a large-scale opening. The void behind Binghua was like a door, separated to both sides, and then a supergiant sword with a width of several kilometers poked out from it. It was the Star of Destruction developed by Binghua specifically to deal with celestial-level battleships and enemies. Blade. In the past, due to energy issues, the positioning of the Star Blade of Destruction has always been somewhat inferior. What it can do can also be done by energy accumulation algorithms such as Sky Blade Judgment. This has resulted in it being able to only stay in Ice Flower for a long time. Of weapons arsenal. But things are different now. With the support of stellar energy, not only the Titan's grip has undergone qualitative changes, but the upper limit of special weapons such as the Star Blade of Destruction has been greatly strengthened. And today was a chance to prove it to the Destruction Star Blade. Today Binghua made the word Destruction Star in the name of his weapon a reality. Under Binghua's control, the super-large sword blade of the Destruction Star Blade stood up straight, and then the majestic stellar energy was introduced into the sword body, concentrating the energy with the energy-driven algorithm of flame bombing. With the sword body as the bone and energy as the blade, the Star Blade of Destruction continued to expand and extend, and soon exceeded the size of the celestial battleship, but it continued to grow until the 9th planet in the 2846 planetary system was dwarfed by it. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 836. 101 stared at the endless blazing giant blade above her head, stopped attacking, and while Binghua's attention was not on her, she quietly exiled her core space and left her body behind, because now if you don't run for a while, you won't be able to run anymore. At the moment, Binghua's mind was entirely focused on maintaining the star-severing blade that he transformed into the star-breaking blade. After seeing that the energy had stabilized, Binghua softly spat out. Cut. Immediately, the star-cutting blade, which was longer than the diameter of the planet, fell simultaneously with Binghua's swinging arm. Any material blocking the front of the star-severing blade was cut in half by this extreme energy cutting. First it was the thin atmosphere, then the celestial-level civilization suppressing weapons of the eternal ascender, and finally the planet's surface and rock layer. Mantle, star core. Staring at the planet that he easily cut in half, Binghua withdrew the energy supply to the star-destroying blade. The magnificent star-destroying blade slowly disintegrated and dissipated, but the damage it caused could still be seen intuitively. In the eyes of everyone in the Justice World's first expeditionary force. Even Kaza, the commander of the First Angel Legion who has followed Binghua for the longest time, fell into a long-term shock when he saw this exaggerated scene, let alone other angels. As for the ordinary defense forces and Super Legion soldiers, they already regard this as a miracle, even if they are not much different from the so-called gods in the eyes of mortals. A few days have passed since the war on the first planet in the 2846th planet system ended. The first expeditionary force is cleaning and dismantling some of the undamaged equipment left by the Eternal Ascended. These things will be transported back to Justice in the future world, as research materials for reverse engineering their technology. But on the Annihilation level, the flagship of the first expeditionary force, Binghua held the dagger sent by Kaza and felt the huge intercepted data inside it. He didn't know whether to say that he was unlucky or that Kaza was lucky. The high-sequence data of the Eternal Ascended One that she had tried countless times but failed to capture was just obtained by Kaza, but at the same time, Binghua felt a sense of excitement in her heart because it meant that she could use this to spy on the core secret of the Eternal Ascended One. As for the wishes of the captured high-sequence data person, this is not considered by Binghua. Even if the other party does not cooperate, she can still forcefully crack it. Tianjian, concentrate all your idle computing power. We will be very busy in the next period of time. Binghua spoke to the projection of Tianjian on the side, and was about to dive into his laboratory. Queen, before you start your research project, there is one thing I need to report to you. Angel Hezui and Angel Jingnan arrived at the territory of the Justice World yesterday and are currently on their way to the God's Throne World. Binghua's excited research enthusiasm was instantly poured cold water on him, and he paced back and forth in his room a little uneasily. Binghua, you can do it, just apologize properly. The reason why Binghua is like this is still Hexi's fault. If Hexi hadn't told her about Jingnan's situation, she might not be so entangled. On the contrary, she would be happy to welcome Jingnan's arrival. But now, for some reason, Binghua felt that he owed Jingnan. He left her alone in Merlot Heaven and suffered the comments from other angels. This seemed to have caused a big psychological blow to Jingnan. But hiding is not an option. The other party has traveled thousands of miles to reach your base. If you drag it on, you will look even worse. In the world of justice and the world of God's throne, Heikawi, who had just got off the shuttle ship, Jingnan and several angels who had followed him stood on the starport, looking down at the layers of majestic buildings below, each expressing different opinions. Evaluate. This is the civilization established by Binghua. It's quite impressive. Looking at the strength of this defense system, not a dozen sky blades can't defeat it in a short time. As a rather pure god of war, Hewi immediately gave the world of God a high evaluation from the perspective of war. Sure enough, the queen is loved by everyone no matter where she is. The prosperity here and the confidence on the faces of the residents are something I have not seen in civilizations under a just order. The smile on Jingnan's face has never disappeared since she arrived in the justice world, because along the way she saw the sincere and devout faith of the residents of the justice world in Queen Binghua more than once. The other angels who followed her also spoke highly of this, and were also surprised that the civilians here were not afraid of them. Because along the way, some mortals would always be attracted by their beautiful faces, but after seeing the angel wings folded behind them, they would turn to look like this, which made them very confused. You must know that in the time of righteous order, most mortals did not dare to look directly at angels. The few who dared to look at them would be so nervous that they could not speak. Miss Angels, your shuttle is ready and can go to the core world of the God's throne at any time. I would like to ask if you choose to leave now. A woman wearing a starport service uniform came up behind Heke and asked them politely. I wanted to ask before, why didn't you tell me the location of the destination so we could fly there by ourselves? Chui had a straightforward temperament and did not bother to hide his thoughts from mortals, so he simply asked the starport service staff who came to talk to them. I'm sorry, it may be that my colleagues didn't explain it clearly to you. Without special circumstances, private individuals are not allowed to enter the core worlds of the justice world directly, and only public routes can be used. Moreover, it is wartime. If you fly around the galaxy at will without reporting in advance, you will easily be regarded as an intruder by the station defense forces. And this is a law appointed by the goddess herself, and no one can violate it. Hizui nodded and said nothing more. The reason why she asked this question was because she couldn't get used to riding in a spaceship, because the speed of this thing was not as fast as her flying in the universe. Jingnan didn't care about this. Instead, he felt a little bit of anticipation and worry about meeting the queen. Will the queen forget him? After all, he had not contacted her for nearly 10,000 years. Also, after not seeing each other for so long, will the relationship between myself and the queen become estranged, and will I be able to continue to work by the queen's side in the future? Hizui on the side felt helpless when he saw Jingnan's tangled look, and finally couldn't stand it anymore. Don't worry, that guy Binghua will never forget your former assistant officer. If she really forgets you, sister, I will help you beat her up. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 837. Upon hearing this, Jingnan looked at Chui with suspicion, and Chui instantly became dissatisfied. Hey, what are you looking at? I'm helping you. Seeing Hizui's reaction, Jingnan lightly pursed his lips and smiled. Seeing this, Hizui turned his head and simply turned his head out of sight, out of mind, and speeded up a bit to walk in front of a group of angels. After Binghua left, Jingnan, who didn't like fighting, first became Ran's assistant, but after Ran became familiar with the things of the Holy Left Wing, she chose to become a scientific research angel and join the Angel Scientific Research Department, because she had served as Guo Binghua's assistant officer was familiar with many things in Merlot Heavenly Court, so he 11 asked Jingnan to be his assistant to handle some trivial matters. During this period, Jingnan unexpectedly got along well with Hizui due to work and he 11, and they became good sisters who talked about everything. Because of his character and strength, Hizui actually doesn't have many friends in Mellow Angel, and he cherishes the sisterly relationship with Jingnan. This time Jingnan planned to retire and leave Merlot Heaven, where he had stayed for more than 10,000 years, to go to the world of justice. Hizui was worried about her safety and retired at the same time. It was not entirely because of Jingnan. Hizui used to be He 11's left-wing guard. In terms of seniority, there were few angels except the four kings who could compare with her. However, when the Tianjian faction was in decline and the Tianji faction was disbanded, it was inevitable that due to some reasons, she was assigned to the comparative position. A leisurely position, which is a bit boring for her as a war god. But this was also Hizui's choice. Who made her give up the competition for the position of the fourth generation of the Holy Left Wing, which led to the complete demise of the cohesion of the Tianjian faction. She couldn't blame others, and she didn't like Ruanning's acting style, and the new generation of angels. Without communication, Chui gradually withdrew from active duty as an angel. This is also the choice of most of the older generation of angels. They all came out of the age of blood and fire. They have no shortage of glory and merit. Naturally, they don't bother to compete with the younger generation for anything. Most of them feel that there is nothing worth paying for. After everything, he chose to retire quietly and leave. After several hours of journey, Jingnan, Hizui and a group of angels finally entered the core world of the God's Throne, the city where the God's Throne is located, and were sent directly to the floor of the God's Throne Hall, where they were guided to a place by tall demigod warrior guards. In front of a huge door. The goddess is waiting for you all inside, and you will have to walk the rest of the way yourself. After speaking, the guard returned to his position, holding his halberd and standing still like a sculpture. Jingnan and Hizui looked at each other, took 2 steps forward and put their hands on the door, when the door opened to both sides. Behind the door, Jingnan saw a face that often appeared in his mind. Jingnan, welcome to the world I built. Before seeing Jingnan, Binghua had been worried that the other party would blame him. However, when the door opened and saw Jingnan staring blankly at him, Binghua calmed down and opened his arms. Just for a moment, Binghua felt a figure appear in his arms, and the familiar name echoed in his ears. The angels who came to the justice world with Jingnan all stood there watching the show. Only Heikawi was a little bit amused. Seeing that the two were starting to chat, they quickly spoke up to break the joyful atmosphere at the scene. I'm talking about Binghua, we have more than one angel from Jingnan here this time. Don't you only see Jingnan? Facing Hizui's yelling, Binghua and Jingnan said separately. Don't worry, Queen, I won't leave you again this time. Even if you want to leave here in the future, I won't allow it. After saying this, Binghua came to Heikawi and raised his hand to touch her shoulder and said with a smile. How could I ignore you? Your willingness to come here is a sign of your trust in me. Also, thank you for taking care of Jingnan over the years. Binghua said the last words specifically to Hizui, who waved away Binghua's hand on his shoulder. I'm not here specifically to see you. The known universe has been a bit too boring these years. I heard from my sister that you're not short of fights, so I came here. Binghua didn't know what to say in response to Heikawi's answer. What's wrong with peace? The righteous world wants peace, but it still can't achieve it. Don't worry, there are plenty of fights in the world of justice for you to fight, but I still have to say, you have helped me a lot by coming here. Binghua said hello to the following angels from Merlo heaven one by one, without neglecting any of them, and Binghua also learned from them the reason for coming to the world of justice. Some of their sisters came here to settle down through their connections there. They came here only after they retired on the recommendation of their sisters. After arranging some things, Binghua did not rush back to the first expeditionary force. Instead, he led Heikawi and Jingnan to change into casual clothes and wandered around the streets near the shrines. There are so many people here. Her long silver hair was tied into a neat high ponytail behind her back. Chui wore a black slim-fitting jacket with a white lining on her upper body, and high-waisted shorts on her lower body, which were paired with a dress that vividly showed off her slender and tight legs. Knee-high stockings, aloof but with a touch of imaginative temptation. When you come out dressed like this, are you deliberately tempting others to strike up a conversation with you? Binghua, who was wearing casual pants and a long coat, looked at Heikawi and smiled teasingly, but Heikawi nodded seriously. Before I came here, I heard from my sister that you have a lot of male angels with pretty good personalities, so I decided to see if there was any that I liked. Binghua looked stunned when he heard this, and then he remembered that although Hewi was a powerful warrior, he was also a rather pure female angel. It didn't seem strange to want to find a partner now. However, after seeing Hizui's clean and crisp manner in his actions, Binghua doubted what kind of male angel could catch his eye, so he asked slightly curiously. Then what are the conditions for you to be pleasing to the eye? Of course you can beat me, and you have to be nice to me. Hizui leaned on the railing on the side of the road and thought for a while before adding a final sentence. Also, you'd better be tougher. I don't want him to squat on the ground and scream in pain if I touch him. Hearing this, Binghua wanted to say something. With your conditions, no one in the entire world of justice could meet your qualifications. First of all, the first one could wipe out 99.9% of the existences, not to mention the few that followed. It's a bit contradictory. I think your conditions are too harsh. You might as well not look for me. If it's easy to find, can I still come to you to look for it? All the male angels in Merlot heaven have fled over the years. My sister has higher requirements than me. I think she will only end up alone in her life. As he spoke, Hizui shook his head and sighed, but Binghua was very interested in He-11's request. What is your sister's request? Please tell me. Hizui glanced sideways at Binghua, his eyes meaningful, and at the same time he did not forget to tell He-11's request for his spouse. My sister said if you were a male angel she would have proposed to you, and that's what she wanted in her husband. Super Seminary Angel Binghua. Author, Shifeng Si Wang. Chapter 839. Binghua didn't have any reaction when he heard this, but he felt that He-11's request was too high. Jingnan, who was wearing a long skirt, stood aside and watched the discussion between Binghua and Hizui with a smile. By the way, Jingnan, have you ever fallen in love with any male angels in Merlot heaven over the years? Of course, Binghua would not forget his assistant officer, so he started a topic and involved her who was listening silently. No, Queen, the relationship between men and women is a bit inappropriate for me. I once thought I liked Texas, but after getting along with him for a while, I found that he and I were not suitable. Binghua understood clearly after hearing this. At that time, he tried to bring them together, but for some reason, Jingnan stopped contacting Texas. By the way, Binghua, you have conquered a large number of male angels. Are there any that you like? Tell us about them. Seeing that the topic was showing signs of ending, Hizui brought it to Binghua. Do you think it's possible for you to like the ones you like? But there are a few that are quite pleasing to your eye. If you are interested, I can introduce them to you. Their morals are quite decent. While Binghua was chatting with Heikawi and the others, he led them into a giant shopping mall. Some of the novel foods and clothing displayed in various holographic projection advertisements along the way were quite exquisite and gorgeous. Seeing that Jingnan and Heikawi were both a little attracted, Binghua simply took the two of them directly to a restaurant that looked very luxuriously decorated. Hizui Jingnan has no objection to Binghua's behavior. Although Angel can maintain his own needs without eating, he still maintains the habit of satisfying his appetite. Soon the waiter put all kinds of exquisite snacks on the table, and then excused himself not far away to wait for the call. Binghua signaled Jingnan and Heikawi, and the girls started chatting while eating, mostly about life and trivia in Merlot heaven. In fact, many people in the restaurant were attracted by the exquisite appearance of the three women, but they only took a few peeks occasionally, but no one came up to strike up a conversation. Firstly, because those who can come here are considered to be people with a certain status. It was the temperament of Binghua and the girls that gave people a feeling of being inaccessible. Before they even got close, they felt a slight pressure coming on them. As for using force in a righteous world, this is purely seeking death. Judgment angels all over the world will tell everyone who tries to challenge the goddess's law what divine power is. No matter who you are, even if you are an archon of a world, as long as someone reports you and enough evidence is collected by the judgment angel, you will be taken down directly. On the contrary, if the reporter makes a false accusation, you will be counterattacked. This makes the atmosphere of Justice World very good. Although some dark sides are still unavoidable, on the whole Justice World is quite loved by people in all worlds. When I came to the world of God, I passed through some worlds and found the world under your rule very interesting. How did you do that? After chatting, Hizui finally got down to business. She was very interested in the various scenes she saw in the world of justice. As someone who once guarded one side, she was quite interested in it. Which aspect are you referring to? Binghua put down the wine glass in his hand and wiped his lips stained with wine with a napkin. In terms of how to restrain subordinate civilizations, I have spent thousands of years trying to figure out a good solution to this problem. I have brought a civilization that has gone astray several times back on track, but in the end they will still making the same mistake. Hizui looked at the liquid in her cup and said with a bit of melancholy. She felt that solving this kind of problem was more difficult than letting her lead the legion to fight a difficult battle. The question you mentioned has been asked by Ran and other angels before. When Binghua talked about this issue, he also felt a little sad. Angel civilization has been trying to guide its civilization of justice order for thousands of years, but the cases of real success are extremely rare. Most civilizations are repeatedly in the quagmire of trial and error. Struggle. There are countless battles caused by the greed and desire of intelligent creatures. Angels come to civilizations on the verge of destruction every time in a savior-like manner, using their unparalleled power to forcibly restore the order of the world to stability, but angels it's impossible to stay forever. This creates a large vacuum period, ranging from decades to hundreds of years, during which civilization often repeats previous mistakes over and over again, which greatly dampens the angels' enthusiasm for restoring order. My place here is different from the righteous order and the affiliated civilizations of angels. There is no distinction between civilizations here. Although each world has its own customs and culture, they all belong to the collective of the righteous world. Then the Queen and other civilizations will not resist the rule of the righteous world. Jingnan asked curiously, of course the order of justice also wanted to unite all its civilizations into a whole, but some issues were left unanswered in the end because the relationships among the various civilizations were too complicated and difficult to sort out. This is the difference between the world of justice and the order of justice. Due to the physical war and the Shenhe Pan-Civilization Alliance, various civilizations in the known universe have achieved great development. After seeing the style of the top civilization in the universe, it is difficult to recognize means other than war brought them together as a whole. Unless there is a crisis that is enough to destroy all their civilizations, the former Pan-Civilization Alliance will be reformed under the intervention of external forces. However, this is only a union on the surface, but it is not a whole after all, and there will still be a great possibility of splitting in the end. It's a pity that the former space principal had the opportunity to integrate these civilizations and rebuild his new Kamigawa, but his compromise led to the collapse of this huge alliance. Whenever Binghua thinks of this, she shakes her head slightly with regret. In her heart, there is some kind of unified plot. Whether it is the former Shinkamikawa or the angel who has become bigger, Binghua hopes to be able to unify the entire universe, so that there will be much less chaos and bloodshed in the world. Even if the order after this unification may not be as beautiful as she thought, it is still better than a world without order and a world where multiple orders conflict. Although he thought a lot, Binghua did not stop talking. The biggest difference between the Sea of Stars and the known universe is that there is no Kamigawa Pan-Civilization Alliance here, but there are eternal sublimators and chaos viruses that are enough to destroy all civilizations here. The Justice World I established can be said to be a replica of the Kamigawa Pan-Civilization Alliance, but unlike space, the alliance I established has been a whole from the beginning. There are no civilizations, only differences in worlds. Forced by enemies that could destroy themselves, those civilizations had no other choice but to join the righteous world. All that remains is to prevent them from having any thoughts of division and to get used to the collective of the just world until they are completely integrated into this collective and are indistinguishable from each other.